Hey there, do you like inside jokes about spaghetti westerns? Well, I just saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a new Quentin Tarantino flick, and I'm about to let you know how I felt about it. Hey, let's get it. So I just saw this new film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the ninth film from Quentin Tarantino. Yes, he's done 9 films. He probably has some shorts he's not counting, but you know. So before I get into spoilers, I'm gonna just let you guys know how I felt about the film, so you guys can watch this. Until we get to the spoilers, and then you can shut it off if you want to go see it. So, if I had to explain how I felt about Quentin Tarantino, I'd just say, people like his dialogue because it's really big, and people like the action because it's really big. They like the violence because it's really big. Everything real big, real. Now, this film right here, this film just wasn't really, it wasn't that big. This film was a little bit more nostalgic. I mean, for an era that I feel like, I'm not personally nostalgic for the 60s because I was born in the 90s, pretty much. So, the connection to this movie isn't completely there, but there is this fantasy about Hollywood and, like the movies and all that. So it's like I could see why he would make this movie and why this would be an exciting outing for him. It felt like we were going into the Nazi era, we were going to the Western era, we were going into the hippie era. It felt a lot like Tarantino was trying to have like one last hoorah, like, all right, let me do all the little things that I wanted to do and make it like sort of a homage to the films that he likes, which are like these old I don't know if they're B-list movies, but they're just like junk movies, but junk movies or westerns and stuff like that, like things you would see on the TV late night. So first off, I'm just gonna say this movie was good, but it's not Tarantino's best. Honestly, it might be his least best. All right, I'll just say worst. I don't want to be rude because it's still a good movie. It's still a well-made film from a very capable director. But this got to be Tarantino's most neutered film. Like, this is his most unedgy film. It's weird because it's not like his most subtle film. Some of the conversations that happen in Glorious Bastards, those are more subtle, and it's not his most action-packed like Kill Bill or something. It's really just a film that doesn't even feel very Tarantino. It feels like a P.T. Anderson film. It feels like Boogie Nights or Magnolia. It's dealing with a lot of those sort of celebrity and Hollywood culture like they do in Boogie Nights. But then also in the second half, it starts to do this narration thing where it's like all these coincidences come together like in Magnolia. I feel like Brad Pitt was really the standout in this one. And Leo did a really good job, but it's like you can't compare Leo to Wolf of Wall Street Leo. Like that was another thing. And this is definitely something that it's good, but it's not the promise that it shows inside of the trailer. A lot of the scenes are in the trailer. We kind of get glimpses of them, but we don't really understand what's going on. There's not much you could say about this film, bro, that I couldn't have said after just watching the trailer. So let's get to the spoilers. All right. So first off, this movie, got a lot of flack for the use of Sharon Tate and the Manson family murders, but really, I just didn't even really feel like that was super necessary. I didn't even think he needed to get into that. I didn't feel like this movie even needed Sharon Tate because Margot Robbie's character is really just bait. It's like suspense bait or tension bait because she doesn't really do much. Because ultimately nothing happens to her character, she's not even in the room when the altercation happens, it just doesn't even feel like she was necessary to this plot. They could have just had her brush by Rick Dalton throughout the film and just gone back to her at the end when she invites him in. You remember in Midnight in Paris, he goes back in time and he gets to meet all his idols, and we see Ernest Hemingway and you see Dali and everybody. Like, that movie was cool because it's sort of like, it's like we all want to be around our heroes and celebrities and these icons that are legends. But this movie doesn't really do that. It's a little bit of the schmoozing, but it really doesn't touch on so many of the cameo characters. And I feel like that would have made this movie a lot more fun. I thought maybe Leo was going to turn out to be a bad guy, but no, his friendship with Brad Pitt is pretty great. And it's good to see that. But at the same time, I feel like that loosens on the tension because throughout this movie, we're waiting for some sort of conflict to happen. And then throughout the end, we're kind of giving this random encounter between the Manson the Manson murderers or whatever, and it kind of felt like it just was thrown in there, like it could have happened or could have not happened. At the end, it's sort of so much coincidence that it's like, okay, like everything's just a coincidence. I feel like Tarantino made this film knowing that people were going to be very interested to see what he does with the actual ending, and he kind of swerved the other way. It's like he wanted to stay far away from the controversy. I feel like it worked better in Inglourious Bastards because the whole movie was basically all the characters were attempting to kill Hitler. In this one, it just doesn't really feel like it was even there and necessary. So some of the best parts of the film to me was Brad Pitt versus Bruce Lee. It was something out of a Hollywood dream. I feel like this movie kind of needed more moments like that. Something where it's sort of these characters of Rick and Cliff sort of interacting with these legends of Hollywood. Something like in Dewey Cox Walk Hard, where he meets Elvis and he's like, oh yeah, yeah.
Come on, come on, man, come on, sitting on there now. Turn around, sit around, look out, man.
Like something where you're sort of interacting through the era. Now, you don't have to make it a ridiculous over the top comedy, but definitely just more moments like that would have just made this movie so much better, and we could have had so many cool cameos from other actors and things like that. Instead, the cameos we get are like Scoot McNairy just being an actor in the Wild Wild West, or just things that is just like it didn't really add as much as it would have if it was a celebrity or a known name. Steve McQueen, man, there's not much to say. It's like these characters are in the film, but they don't do that much to the point where it's worth talking about. So Charlie Manson's in the trailer, and in this movie, I think all the shots that were in the trailer of Charlie Manson are in the actual movie, and that's it. Like, there's no more of him. We don't see him. He actually has no interaction with the final conclusion of this film. The final third of this film has no interaction between the people that we kind of wanted. We don't see Sharon Tate. We don't see Charlie Manson. This is not something that happens. Instead, we get this really cool scene between Brad Pitt on acid. So Brad Pitt smokes a cigarette dipped in acid, and at the same time, coincidentally, these people come to just murder celebrities, and he has to fight them off using his dog, which it was cool the way they teased his relationship with his dog and how that worked out. But basically, they turned Brad Pitt's character into a superhero. Maybe we should have just had the murder attempt at the beginning of the movie and then just continued, or have it somewhere in the middle. This just kind of felt like he thought that the suspense of the murder was going to be enough to pull you to really be engaged with the film. And, you're interested, but I don't think it's going to prove for a better second viewing. I don't think this is a movie that is going to be worth seeing twice once you know how he actually ends it. It's just kind of a 2 hour and 45 minute film that leads to, just Tarantino having fun, having fun with history. The movie is very heavy on these sort of recreation films that Rick Dalton did. And these scenes, they're interesting for the character, just for us to get to know him, but they don't prove to really contribute very much to the actual emotional depth of the character, besides knowing that, oh, he used to be this guy, or he was supposed to be a leading man, and now he's becoming the bad guy archetype. Leo's portrayal, every time he's emotional, it's both funny and heartbreaking, and I think that's really good, and that works very well. But at the same time, it's such a funny caricature of an actor that's fading. I feel like if the movie was more like, if this was A Star Is Born about Leo's character, we would have really cared more about the aging and things like that. It would have been more of a drama. But instead, I feel like the movie really falls to Brad Pitt's character, and that character is done really well, but it's also something where he has his own life story, and we don't really get into his past more than just saying that, oh, he apparently killed his wife. Like, Brad Pitt killed his wife, and we're not talking about that, man. Like, the movie makes it pretty apparent that he was drunk on a boat and then he shoots her. I mean, she was asking for it, but at the same time, like, he got away with murder. Brad Pitt's a good friend in this movie, and that's great. That, you know, friendship is something that I love to see in movies. This is a movie where two friends, you know, struggle together in order to stay in Hollywood. Brad Pitt's definitely taking the harder route than Leo is. Like, every scene, it's Leo in first class, Brad Pitt in coach. It's Leo just got a new girl and Brad Pitt's, you know, moving his bags. I guess the upside for Brad Pitt's character is he gets to drive the really cool car. So let's talk about the hippies. All right. You know, I like the way they're portrayed at the beginning. We see the hippie girls just really, you know, living their life and just hitchhiking, and it shows it was a different time, and, you know, people did things different. They were more open. She had armpit hair, things like that. But at the same time, you know, when we really got to know the hippies, they became very two-dimensional characters. They became just villains. We don't get to see anything of Charlie Manson really brainwashing them, or we don't really understand their relationship to what it is outside of just political views. So one of the most standout moments in the movie is the relationship between Rick Dalton and his tiny child female co-star, and he meets her on set when she's rehearsing her lines, and he starts to realize that this little girl is, you know, prepared to be the next big thing. And he's going through this emotional moment where he's starting to question his own validity as an actor in Hollywood. And is he a leading man? Could he ever be a leading man, or is his story done? And when he meets her, he feels challenged. So while he's performing a scene, he starts to mess up lines, and he really takes it out on himself. And you can see that everything is counting on this hitting it out of the park. And you know, that's a great scene. The little girl does really great, and she's a star, man. She's wherever they find these little kids. I'm sure they went through like 50 little kids to find the right little girl. But yeah, like, she does a great job. She challenges him to step up and, you know, become the actor that he needs to be. Where her confirmation gives him validation that he's still in the game, and, you know, that's great. Al Pacino's cool, but he doesn't do much in here. He just comes in and tells Leo, "Hey, like, I have some opportunities for you, but, you know, you got to do it. You can't just keep playing the bad guy." Like, you know, a lot of this movie is very straightforward. A lot of the movie doesn't really do anything super elevated like other Tarantino movies. It's not the most quotable movie. It's not the most violent movie. It's not the most action packed. It's not even the most creative film he's done. They make Bruce Lee seem like, you know, a very egotistical character, and it's funny to play with it that way. But like I said, it was very Dewey Cox-ish. If you're interested by the trailer, definitely go check it out. Hopefully I didn't ruin it with this review. But like I said, you probably should have watched this review after you saw the film. So Brad Pitt basically takes the cake in the end of this film, and him and his dog fed off the intruders and just really go at them. And I feel like Tarantino delivered that punch that everybody was expecting throughout the film. But it's hard because Tarantino has done this so many times in films that we're sort of spoiled by it. We're used to seeing this from him. We've seen so many versions of this being done, from, you know, the dog attack in Django, or, you know, like the ear cutting in Reservoir Dogs. Like, there's just so many moments, you know, that just eclipse the moments in this film. And this is an addition to his filmography, but it's definitely on the lower portion. So if I had to rate this film, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. The hype for this film was really out there, and I don't think it met the standards of what people expected. When I first heard about this movie, I expected a really crazy third act, and this one was just a lot more funnier. It's funny, the girl Maya Hawke from Stranger Things, she just dips at the end, and I guess it's played for comedy, but I didn't know if she was going to come back with help or come back with more people to kill. Or my expectation with it being Tarantino was that it was going to get a little bit more crazier. If you like this film or you dislike this film, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and let me know which other films you want me to rate. If it's an old film or a new film, just let me know and I'll throw it on the roster and I'll knock it out for you guys. I'm new to this review thing, so I'm just gonna keep going at it and keep getting better. So, just leave me your feedback, whatever you feel about it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, check it out, or don't check it out, man. It's up to you, man. Or go rewatch an old Quentin Tarantino movie. That might be fun too.